Welcome to the No Huddle podcast for the Hog Dynasty. We are here today to talk about some teams and the moves they should make or they have made. What's your idea here?
I was thinking of looking at the bottom-ish.
Team profile things?
Yeah.
All right, let's do that. Which teams do you have in mind? You want me to share my screen? I could present.
Yeah. I forgot the name of the podcast for a second before you said it, because it's been a while since we've consistently done it. I don't even know if we actually did it for the last one we did, which was the
draft.
The draft. Yeah.
Do we call it out or did we?
You didn't even say. I don't even think you said the name.
Oh, my bad. Well,
get your shit together, Mike.
It is the No Huddle podcast. Whether I call it that or not, I remember because it takes a few steps to get it going. Like I gotta put a thumbnail on YouTube and where is it? No Huddle.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I have the team profiles up. What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about yourself?
No, definitely not. I'm gonna save me for last, and you too. Although I do kind of want to talk about your team, but I might save that for the next session too.
I feel like my team is like a big question mark. I don't know what you want to say about my team.
I have a lot to say about it, but I'm going to save that.
I appreciate your ideas.
I wanted to actually start with our new member.
Our new member, Dave.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go over to Dave. See what his team looks like. All right, hold on. Let me show you one thing I put together. I put it on the roster sheet. You might probably not have noticed it. Dragging things over.
I don't know.
So this is basically, you see my screen, right? This weird color coded heat map thing.
No, I see Dave still.
Oh, you do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Draft order? Which one are you looking at?
No, hold on. Maybe move it over. Present something else. Sorry, wasting time.
It's okay. I have a little flexibility. We'll see what we get through in like an hour. Okay.
All right. So this is the position KTC comparison to league thing. You've seen this, right? That makes sense to you. All right. So what I did is on our roster sheet, I tabulated everyone's like roster ranks by position and kind of tiered them out the way it kind of broke. So like I literally averaged out like the starters, or like I think I did like top 3 running backs or top 4 receivers, and roughly it broke into these kind of tiers. Not really within the tiers, not really moving things within whatever. It's subjective, but like this is kind of how they broke. You, Mark, and Mick seem like you have the best in terms of having strength at positions, followed by Tier, Rich, Emil, and Ian, and then Vlad. He's got some strengths, but then pretty bad receivers. Robby's also got pretty good quarterbacks, but questionable otherwise. Scott's got a lot of holes, and then Eric's got decent receivers compared to the rest of the league, but bad quarterbacks and running backs. And then me and Dave bringing up the rear without much strength. So, I mean, my quarterbacks come up pretty good. His quarterbacks don't line up too bad at the moment, but yeah. Anyway.
This makes it look really bad when you don't consider picks.
Yes, but I mean, this is more of like where the teams stand now. Like, yeah, obviously, certain teams have more picks. Certain teams have money to spend in free agency. I'll go back to the other sheet there so we could look at Dave's team and talk about that.
So he has. By the way, this is awesome. How you put this together.
Thanks.
I don't know if anyone actually thanked you. Thank you for putting it together.
Maybe you're the first one. Dave gave me some credit.
Did he? Yeah. He's got to be pretty excited. Is he pretty excited to be in the league?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he was looking forward to it. He said this is like running a real team, so he's looking forward to getting into it.
I'm interested to see how he does because with Oh my god! Now that he's left the league, I'm blanking on his name. Huh?
You talking about Antihero? Oh wait, Matt.
Yeah, Matt. Thank you. It's like Matt's gone. It's like I don't know who Matt is anymore. I kind of felt like Matt made a couple we talked about this I think last year where
Made some questionable trades where I think
he made some questionable trades. Yeah,
I think he hit on May and he believed in May, so it wasn't just dumb luck that he fell into him. Like he really did believe in May, and it worked out for him.
Agreed.
He's made some good moves, and he's also made some moves where it's just like, what are you doing? So,
like the Kyler Murray one, I think was the one it might put Dave in a his quarterbacks are like okay, but I think last year's kind of shaken me a little bit around what
Kyler?
you need in order, not just him specifically, but the need to like have two top 10, top 12 quarterbacks.
I still think it's a viable strategy. I think when he was buying Kyler, though, I think he was thinking, okay, I'm locking down this like top 6 quarterback, and that's not where he performed last year, and it's not where he's being valued now. So it's kind of, it's not, it didn't work out the way he did. Like if Kyler was a top 6 quarterback and he's got Drake May, I'd say he's got a great quarterback to build off of. And, the rest of his team doesn't have any huge strengths, but, something to build off of. Now it's like, I like his quarterbacks. I like them a lot. I don't love them. All right. It's a little bit of a
they're probably good. They're probably really good if he had strength at all the other positions, right? So at least now he knows where he needs to build.
Yeah. But I mean, in terms of valuation, like Kyler Murray is not being valued much higher than like Baker Mayfield or Michael Penix. So, I mean, I don't remember what picks he exactly traded in there. I think they're mostly future picks, right? Whatever, but. Yeah, there probably could have been other ways hitting on, like, I'm pretty sure it wasn't one of those picks, but like a Bo Nix would have looked great there, right? If he had Nix and still had all those other picks, or if he traded one of those picks for Baker Mayfield or something, then he would have looked a lot better. Yeah, because not having a first next year kind of sucks. This year he lost out on what was that? That's the 101, right?
So
Oh no, Scott's is the 101. Sorry.
Yeah. So, God, what year are we in? It was your first last year, so that's fine because that was the 112, right? But then it was his own first this year, which I forget who ended up having. I think you ended up having that.
Was that the 104? No, I don't have that.
No, I think
it's 102. Rich has it. It's a 102.
Rich has it. The 102. Yeah. So the 102 and then a 26 first, right?
Which I think whatever. I mean, the 102 is questionable. Like, it's obviously a great pick, but
player wise,
it's a tough decision. It's a tough decision, I think.
I know. So I don't know. Yeah, I think his QB room's good. I think his running back room actually isn't bad from a starting point perspective, and he's also got a ton of cap space, right? So. I mean, overall, if you just kind of take a step back and say he's got QB foundation, he's got the cap space to work with. Now he's going to be you have him second in cap space right now. So gives him some flexibility. And I think his running back room is sort of a good, like, starting point, but obviously he'll have to fill that out. I think I think wide receiver is the one where he probably has the most work to do to catch up to the rest of the league. He's got a bunch of good like wide receiver threes.
I mean, like, if he wants to go with a tight end at 202, that's probably a good value pick there if he happens to hit on one. Or you can go running back there, or maybe receiver. Who knows? I mean, I think the depth in this class is going to be there in terms of interesting players, and some of them will hit, some of them won't, like always. But those 2 second rounders are good for him because I'm not going to love the quarterbacks going around that time. I don't think. Whatever hurts. Depending, we would draft it probably day 2, but I'd much rather take like a very late second than like the 202 on him, to be completely honest. But so the funny thing is, looking at who's available in free agency, there's not a lot of really good players, and I haven't gone through the exercise of going through all the expired contracts because technically they're still on rosters.
Yeah.
So like I don't like they don't show up as free agents, but really like in terms of free agents, when I looked at it the other day, I mean, I still have you don't see this, but I'll pull up the free agents, but it's really like Sam. Oh no, this is just quarterbacks. Out of value, it's like Sam Darnold, Tyreek Hill, and then like Chris Godwin and J.K. Dobbins and Rashid Shaheed might be the next three that are out there right now. So it's not really like last year where there were quite a few interesting players. Maybe some people will get, will have cuts. And again, like I said, I haven't gone through expired contracts to see who's falling off, but like CMC is going to most likely be in there. So there's going to be a few more, but it's not stocked with a bunch of guys like I feel like last year it was. So it won't be as guys are going to get pushed up because I think you're going to there's going to be quite a few teams with money and not a lot of guys to spend it on, but it'll be interesting to see how much Dave goes in on like a Tyreek Hill or CMC.
Probably where he'll spend. I mean, it makes sense for him to spend, especially if there's only, and like you said, it's going to get bid up. If I were him, I probably would try to stay focused on keeping the cap space available for being able to bid on those couple players that he like. But I wonder though, is he a couple years out? So he's got 3 decent picks this year, but he only has 1 second next year. He doesn't have a first.
Nope.
In 26, right? And then he's got a 27 first and second. This is kind of where Matt, I think, got sort of stuck. Was he's gotten the team to a point where like it's still like a little bit of a decision, but he's still at a rebuild. Would you agree?
Oh, he's very much a rebuild, yeah. And like even if like the shortest path to having a competitive team this year, the 107, you're going to be able to get a running back that you can hope for and project to be a contributor this year, right? It might not work out that way. Might be like a Charbonnet kind of role, or some not every running back that goes in the first round of rookie drafts ends up being an immediate starter or even a contributor. But you can hope for it at 107 probably, or a receiver there. I know Dave's a Colorado football fan. Maybe Travis Hunter sitting out there at that point. I could see him going that way and hoping that he plays more offense than cornerback. But so I feel like he could get a projectable starter there. 202, like I said, that's that could be a good tight end. I have I do kind of like the players out there, and then free agency. So you say you add a running back there, so you have one good starter, and hopefully Charbonnet is sort of a startable backup. And then I don't know, maybe bid big on Tyreek Hill or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Or maybe the other way around. You draft Travis Hunter and hope that you can start him, and then bid big on CMC. Although I don't know if competing this year is the right strategy. I don't think he's going to try to force it. I told him what I did like last year when I decided that I was going to really go for it, and I spent my money on getting players I can trade, right? So I got CMC and I shipped them away. I don't know if people will be as willing after that experience that Mick had with that move, if they're going to be as willing to like pony up a future first. But I wouldn't be surprised, or at least maybe a couple seconds or something like that.
I agree.
He can make it work, but it's
I was gonna say, I think you're right. It sucks that he doesn't have his first. I was actually just trying to figure out who has his first.
Next year?
Yeah.
Is that Mueller?
Tell me it's you. It's you.
Oh.
It's you.
Yeah, I think he should totally punt it.
Yeah. But I think that's where he needs to just be a little bit more disciplined, and I think committing than maybe Matt was. So, if I were him, I would probably look to sell Kyler back again, depending on where he is from a market standpoint. He's got Drake May. I think Drake May is a good cornerstone. I think he just needs more pieces. He needs more options in order to do things. Not having his 26 first is going to hurt him. So he could probably hit on some things this year, but he's going to have to like kind of do what you did and replenish some of those picks, right? Second rounds, trading some guys that probably will be helpful for second round picks. But I think he's got to, my advice would be try to just maximize on the players that you have in terms of picks and value, and maybe look towards 26 would be my guess, trying to do something in 26.
So I'm just looking at where Murray's being valued right now. Where are Kyler? Okay, there you are. All right, so I mean, like he's kind of being valued around like the 103 right now. I don't think I would trade him for the 103 just because I don't feel great about the player that I'd have to make the decision on. And like he's in the last year of his contract, but he could be extended. It's still not going to be like a huge contract.
Yeah, it's a reasonable dollar amount. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if it's like, you know, maybe 2 firsts and they're from teams that aren't like, you know, you or Mark or maybe like, you know, teams that aren't so solidly built right now. Maybe I think about that, but like, you know, for 1 first, I don't think I would do it because, you know, he's still Kyler Murray. I don't think he's going to not start anytime soon. Like, I feel like he's got 3-4 solid years of runway ahead of him that, you know,
I agree.
Even if he doesn't do much better than he did this year, which I think he will. I think he can. I think that offense can be better. I don't think he was completely holding it down. But yeah, I agree. Like, if somebody's willing to give him 2 firsts and a second, and I'd say, yeah, go ahead and do it, and you know, feel more teacher, whatever. Like, pick up Sam Darnold or something for free agency, maybe. I don't know. Like,
yeah, you know what's funny? I was looking at like who would even do that or who that would make sense for. There's not going to be many teams, but Eric. And this might be kind of a good transition point if we want to talk about Eric's team, because I think Eric's team has he has QB as a whole.
He does, but he also has a pick that I think is a good pick to take a shot at a QB if he wants to do that.
At 103?
Yeah.
I agree, but I also don't think he necessarily has to trade the 103 in order to get Kyler either, right? If you're going back to the multiple first or something, not that the 110 is great, but if you were to do 2 firsts, like the 110 and a 26 first, because Eric has 2 of them, then you start to see where that's probably something that Eric, depending on where he thinks JJ McCarthy is going to be. But if JJ McCarthy is anything like Sam Darnold, a little bit less than Sam Darnold, and he has Kyler, if you look at the rest of his team, the rest of his team can kind of maybe make a little bit of noise. He just needs to figure out running back at that point, right?
Yeah, I don't hate that idea. The 110 and 26 first. I think I'd be willing to move that for Kyler. Like if it's, if it's the 103 for Kyler, I don't know if I like that from either of their perspectives. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, there's no point. There's no point to really do that, right?
Not really, because you're either going to take the top quarterback available or the second one. You know, I think they're both okay prospects. I don't think they're great prospects. But although it's hard to tell, like, and I think Bo Nix is a great prospect, and maybe still not a great quarterback, but he's definitely holding his own.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, it's hard to be certain about which quarterbacks are going to do well and which are not. But the 110 and the 26 first, I guess I would take Eric's over Ian's if I was Dave. But would you do that from Dave's perspective? What does Dave gain from the 110? That's the question.
I think he more of just is regaining some flexibility more than anything.
I'd almost rather take the 226 firsts.
Probably, yeah, because at least you'll have a role that it could be better than the 110 the next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You clear up, $96 or whatever in salary space, so you have even more to challenge for. That would put him close to me in terms of having the most to spend.
Yeah, it kind of just puts though. Then again, it'd be. I'd probably even be more inclined to do that if he had his own first in 26. But
Yeah.
But to your point, like, would you rather have the 110 or a 26 first? I probably would rather have a 26 first than the 110.
In this draft, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of works out for Eric in this situation, because if you believe in McCarthy, and I kind of do, like, let's pencil him as a starter and say he's going to be okay. And then add Kyler. So your quarterback's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Receiver's not a problem. Tight end's not a problem. And you could get a good running back at 103, probably, probably the second running back off the board, if not the third. And then maybe hit it again at 110.
At 110, yeah. And I think that helps both teams. And again,
yeah, you could completely rebuild
You could rebuild his running room or a running back room, or just create extra depth there if you wanted to with the 110, the 203, right?
Yeah, I think that works out for Eric, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as any other moves, I mean, Marvin Mims, I think you keep him. Aiden O'Connell, you keep him. Kendrick Miller, I guess you keep him. Whatever. Would you cut Deshaun Watson if you're him? I think I would.
Yeah, I think so too. He re-tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
So he's out for the year.
That's what they're saying. I think it's like one of those things where, if they're in a playoff run, he could be available late in the year, or you're not going to go with a quarterback that sucked and then miss all of training camp and most of the season. Like, there's no way.
Yeah,
they're not playing him. He's not playing this year.
Yeah, I would cut him.
It's too expensive. Even if he like put yourself a year from now, he's on a different team or something, you still have a huge salary on your hands.
Yeah,
here.
I mean, cut him and then let bid for him in free agency at like a fraction of the cost. Yeah. Fraction of the cost, and then just you can be like, okay, I just reset it. You know what I mean? Because
absolutely, no, that's a good point.
Yeah,
like if you really want him, like I can't imagine he's going to go for a lot.
No,
nobody want to do that.
No, but he's done good. Eric's done good. I will say that the trade that we did, where I think it worked out for both of us and what we wanted, but he's kind of positioned well because he replenished his picks. Neighbors is a stud. It sucks about Jonathan Brooks. I mean, he's not dead, but again, he's got to kind of rebuild back up now. But again, I think with what the picks that he has, I don't think Jonathan Brooks is a key running back for his stable. So keep him there, and maybe he becomes a good RB2 or flex. So I think it's just I honestly think he's a QB short from competing well, and then it just depends on what happens with Drake London and George Pickens when it comes to the quarterback situations there. So, and then again, he's got third in cap space too. So Eric's in a pretty decent spot if he wants to make kind of a trade.
Yeah, even if he pays his holdouts and trades for Kyler, assuming he cuts Watson. I mean, this is Kyler's salary right here. You cut Watson, you're making it right back up with the Kyler trade. So basically, it's a wash.
Yep.
And these holdouts are not bad. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty solid move. I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, let's see if either of them listen to it or watch this and get the idea. But
Dave might, because Dave's a newbie, so he might actually give it a chance.
Especially if we actually keep it to near an hour.
Yeah.
But it's the first topic, so if he listens to the first half hour, he'll get his money's worth.
Yeah.
Dave doesn't have any big decisions in terms of contracts or anything. Gus Edwards, he's thinking about cutting him, save 30. It's kind of like whatever. Clearly, he didn't have a great outlook coming into last year, and he got bid up to $60. So that just is a sign of demand. I mean, what was Zach Moss was around $100. It was things are getting crazy. And I think it's going to be the same this year with the second tier free agents available here. But I think it's a good talk. Good call. Yeah. All right, who do you want to hit next? We're gonna roll.
Let's hit Rich because he's got 102.
I kind of like Rich's team. I don't think he's amazing anywhere. But feels like he's deep everywhere. All right, do you get what I'm saying?
Let me see if I agree with that. Deep everywhere.
Maybe not deep at quarterback, but I kind of like his backup options. Like, Joe Milton's kind of a name that is interesting to hold on to. I don't know. Those guys who do good in like a game or two, you rarely ever see them actually being traded somewhere than actually doing good. So, but I think the talented guy who seems like he can manage a game better in the pros than he ever did in college, which is interesting. Fields, I don't know what's going on there, but maybe Pittsburgh will have him back. It seems like they're all over the place in terms of what is rumored out there. But Knicks and Purdy are fine. I think they're a good, decent running quarterback room.
It's like Kyler and May, right? In a way, same tier of quality of quarterbacks. Yeah, I know the rankings probably going to tell a similar story, but yeah, I think he's fine. I think he's.
It's like a small tier down from them, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's fine. I agree, and who knows where Field lands as like a QB3? I don't think he has to overthink it. Running backs are interesting.
So they're not like top tier guys, but I like the names. Like I like Bucky Irving, Tank Bigsby, Tyjae Spears, Rashad White. It's just kind of duplicative, but whatever. Like Algier is a guy who you don't mind having to start if you have to. Like it's like he gets carries, he's good. And McLaughlin had a couple moments, so whatever. So it's not a bad room in my opinion. It's again, I think more deep than top heavy or anything like that. Receiver, maybe it's more top heavy because I think Amon-Ra is obviously a stud, and I don't fully believe in JSN completely, but like it's an interesting group to round out. JSN, Judy, Mario Douglas. I guess that's about it. Other guys that Michael Wilson, you can start at pinch. Booty had a few moments, but I don't know if that turns into anything. Same thing with Alec Pierce, but who knows? More guys that are a little bit fragile. Wicks is the highest value out of that, second, is this fifth wide receiver in terms of value. But I don't know. I've kind of more questions about him than answers. But interesting names.
He do you think Judy's worth it? And maybe I'll say it differently. Do you think he's going to continue to be just good? Good, not elite, just reliable.
I would be willing to take the bet on him as my wide receiver 2 or
Three.
Higher 3. I think he's really young. He was in not great situations, but he's still, I think, 25 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So even though he's been around and it feels like he's older, he's still very young. He had a really good season. I mean, you look at the numbers, it's actually remarkable how good of a season he had. It was actually, I feel like it was kind of quiet for a 12-yard season with as many touchdowns as he scored. I feel like it was sort of kind of overlooked. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to be, I don't think he's ascending to wide receiver, top 12 wide receiver level. But I think as a wide receiver too, he can be there with the right quarterback, which again is a question because it's the Browns and I don't know what the hell they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So Rich got the 102.
And the 105.
And the 105. So it's interesting. Whether it's you, and you may, if you still have that pick, you might have something in mind of what you're going to do. I think Genty makes sense for your team. Genty's probably the chalk pick for anyone who trades for that pick. I don't think anyone's going to trade for the 101 to get anyone other than Genty, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the pick at number 1, almost certainly. At 102, I could see him going the wide receiver 1, whether it's Ted McMillan, who's the chalk guy there now, or somebody else, or the running back 2. That could be an option if he lands nicely. I don't know. I haven't listened to their podcast in a bit, so I don't know if they talk rookies, and I don't know what Rich's thoughts are on some of these guys. It seems like some of them have, some of the analysts in the space have favorites, like Omarion Hampton. A lot of people are high on him. Other people like Travion Henderson. If one of those guys that they're in love with lands in like Dallas or the Chargers, I could see that being like, oh, that's very tempting pick at 102 versus a receiver maybe that you're not as sold on.
Yeah.
And I mean, quarterback, I don't think he will go that way, but it's also not crazy to think if he likes the landing spot in the player. I'm not sure his feelings about like Cam Ward, but I know he's a Giants fan. Cam Ward ends up on the Giants. And he believes in Cam Ward. I could see a worse pick than going with that, right? Let Purdy go or something after next year. He's got a pretty big salary. I don't know.
He could probably wait. I would think, if I'm just looking at the draft order, you have the 10. Do you have the 104?
Yeah, 104 and 16.
And he has the 102. Who has the 103?
Eric. So I think that is unless he makes the Kyler trade, I think that's likely to be a quarterback there.
Mm-hmm. I think he kind of has. I would think that you at 104 probably wouldn't take a quarterback. So Rich with Dave's 102 and the 105, I feel like he can kind of pick who he really wants at 102 and let fall something at 105 that will probably still be like fine for him. So if like one of those quarterbacks drops to 105, you take them. If not, then to your point, I think he's got some flexibility.
You're not screwed because you don't absolutely need that quarterback.
Yeah.
Like you could use either running back or receiver, whatever falls to you is kind of fine.
What do you think he's missing to put him in the next tier of teams?
High-end running back?
So like a clear RB1.
Yeah, I mean, if, let's say let's project his draft. Say he does get one of those quarterbacks at 5 and he goes 10 at 102, right? Say wide receiver 1. Like, I feel like then I think about making that trade for CMC for whoever ends up with him out of free agency, unless it's a contending team. Because maybe then he's not on the board, but then I see what other running backs are out there. Maybe CMC wouldn't be my number 1 target anyway. I kind of have to look at the bad teams to see who they might have. But right now, yeah, I mean, who would I say is not competing or doesn't look like they have a great team?
Running back's really, really interesting. I feel like I have to look at the ranking of running backs because as I was thinking about if I was Rich, would you be trading for like a running back? Like, would you trade? Where would you put Breece Hall? Around like the 105?
I think I'd rather have Breece Hall. Like, if I was looking for a running back, I probably want to have Breece Hall over the running back I'd be drafting there.
Even how about the 102?
So the 102, I mean, the thing is, I'm like that pick's got a little bit more juice just because you take Genty off the list, but then you have like the option of the best player at the best landing spot, right? If you're not locked into a position, I'd like to see that first. Like, I wouldn't want to be trading the 102 away right now because, I don't know what the possibilities are, but maybe something crazy. Like, I don't know, Ted McMillan, the Chiefs trade up to the 105 or something and draft Ted McMillan. Okay, I'd be very interested in that, and maybe I wouldn't want to give that pick up, right? But yeah, that's probably a little tougher before. But I mean, say Omari and Hampton goes whatever number 20, whatever the Chargers have. What's Breece Hall? Who's got him at this point?
Mark. And Mark's, this will be fluid too, because Mark's, again, interesting. Strong team, no draft capital. And
it's not an expensive contract either.
His RB room is decent. His RB room's good. I feel like he had a deeper RB room than this, and I don't know why.
Who did he trade to Scott late in the year? Is that what?
Oh, he traded Isaiah Pacheco and James Conner. That's why.
Yeah, he traded Conner to Flat, I think, right? Or Scott traded him to Flat, something. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd rather like if we're making that projection of Hampton to the Chargers, which is reasonable, I guess. Pick pretty high for him, first round capital. I'd still rather have Brees.
Yeah.
At $55 with 4 years on that contract, I think, I really think Brees is very good and just
Me too.
has been held down by that situation more so than he's not. I'm more, just as a comparison point, I'm more concerned about like Jonathan Taylor and how good he might really be versus Brees Hall. Like, I think Brees Hall is a little bit better just overall than Taylor.
Why do you bring those two up? Why'd you bring Taylor up?
Because I feel like they're valued close, and I feel like Taylor, his sort of not lack of production, but like lack of being elite makes me think that maybe he's not really elite. Like, I feel like he's gone down a tier for me in terms of how good I projected to be, or like how good I
really
think. Yeah.
That's interesting. Now, for somebody who I also have like PTSD when it comes to Jonathan Taylor because of him like having his best games the last 3 weeks of the season. He's got the breakaway speed, but I always felt like he's kind of like I don't know if one-dimensional runner is the right way to say it.
I think I get what you're saying. Yeah, I agree. Like, I think that's exactly what I mean. Like, I feel like Brees is a good receiver. Like, I feel like the usage, you can make a lot of excuses for Taylor. Like, he's got Anthony Richardson at times at quarterback, which is weird because it takes away some of his running, but also, I don't know, like, it should open things up for a running back, to be honest, which is like what you saw more with like Derrick Henry at times, where the defense has to account for a running back or for the quarterback running. So it should open up some holes for just like clear runs. But like, he also, had some weird stretches when it wasn't Richardson in there and it was more of like a pocket quarterback.
He did. Yeah. I mean, like, if you just look at the fact that he scored close to, let's see, so the last 3 weeks of the year, this is very interesting because he scored almost like half of his points. It's probably a third, closer to a third, a little more than a third. So like 40% of his points came in the last 3 weeks. Taylor's.
Now, which is great for me in some places,
but he's still like, he averages over almost 4.5 yards a carry. And it all evens out. I mean, you can't discount it, but I agree with you. I think Brees is much more involved in the passing game. The situation's shit. It's just very unstable. And I think Jonathan Taylor's has been pretty stable. His role's stable. The type of team they are from an offense standpoint is pretty stable. So yeah, I would agree with you on Brees. It's just interesting for Rich to figure out like what is it that he would. So if I had Rich's team, I would be most likely using my pick capital to try to get like elite players at this point.
Where would you go first?
And
do you mean like this year, like 102, 105, or capital?
I would probably try to keep the 102 just in terms of like value. But I think a 105 is still very good. So a 105 and a 26 first. Trying to see, that's why I said running back's interesting, because I actually don't think I like who's the RB3
in the league?
Yeah, Gibbs and Bijan are 1 and 2.
Barkley?
Genty. That's crazy. That's to me, that's crazy. Just not that it's not reasonable, that your answer's unreasonable, but it seems.
I think it falls off quite a bit.
It does. It really does. Now,
like, I don't think it's unreasonable. Yeah, I mean, I don't think sight unseen. I don't think I would rank Genty there. But like, if Genty went to top 15 to the Cowboys or wherever they're picking, I think I might consider him there.
You could see it. You could see it. So, yeah, it's. I feel like things have kind of flattened a little bit. So, even if Saquon's on he has 1 year left on his contract, but he's $300, and I know Mick's probably open to rebuilding and moving him, but I definitely wouldn't move him for a first.
You would trade a first for him.
I would not trade a first for Saquon for 1 year, right? If there was a way that he could extend him and somehow eat capital or whatever, or eat salary, maybe. So running back's tough for him to kind of buy up on. I don't think the value's there, right? If somebody's willing to do, say it's like the 105 and a 26 second for Brees, I don't think Mark would do that. Mark's not I don't think in that position, but he's got quarterback questions too. Mark does.
Mark does. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably where I would be trying to go is, maybe one of the top 5 running backs. But I also, to your point, don't think he has to, because he could probably hit running back at 105, hit running back at 205, and just cast a bigger net and hope he gets like an A-chain experience, right? Where A-chain was like a late first. And he hits the right spot, and you maybe get a good RB1 out of that. So, other than that, trying to upgrade quarterback. That'd be the only other thing I would try to do, is try to get into like the elite tier of quarterback. But even that tier is tough now as well.
So, I mean, it's tricky because let me check out what Scott got. So the thing is that the teams that are probably not competing this year don't exactly have elite receivers and running backs, maybe quarterbacks, but like, I think Eric with Neighbors and Scott with Puka are probably maybe the 2 best examples of not great teams that have elite players at receiver. So it's not like you have a lot of options there. I mean, I don't think he's an elite receiver, but Tyreek Hill is going to go somewhere. Another, probably a cheaper option there, but like, the bad teams aren't exactly flush with elite players. That's the problem. So either you gotta aim lower, or I feel like for some players you're probably gonna have to overpay. Like, maybe, I don't know, how easy Scott's gonna move off of Mahomes, right? It's Mahomes is a kind of a tricky player.
Yeah.
Unless they do something in free agency or the draft, it's like hard to value him, because like on one hand he's probably the best quarterback in the league. On the other hand, he's not really producing for fantasy like that, right?
Wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, but so I mean, like I would trade Lamar, but I'm going to need a hell of a lot for it. So it's like, either you're going to have to pay crazy for somebody, or try to get another team that is contending to move off of one of their guys.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a matter of probably, not for us to do during this episode, but like, are there overpaid players at those positions that somebody would be willing to move off of? So maybe it is like, maybe Mick would be willing to move off of somebody like Barkley, if he feels like, he's got 1 more year, or then he's losing him. Would Mick trade Barkley for I don't know, moving back over to these profiles, for like Tank Bigsby and, I don't know, a couple seconds or something? I'm not sure. Like, whatever these are, but like, that's where maybe the idea can work. But otherwise, I think it's kind of tricky to try to get elite players, because I don't think the teams that have those elite players are really going to want to give them up. I think they're kind of in there, at least as paper competitors right now.
Yeah. I probably would so that all that being said, as you're talking about it, I'm kind of like Rich still has 226 at firsts. So even if in season he would want to make like a move for a certain player, he could still do that too. So he probably doesn't have to make something now for the run now. His team's pretty decent. And depending on what he hits on 105, 102, and the 205, that'll probably give him more information as to how far he is from putting his team into sort of that next tier. And he has, again, the capital to probably do that too. So maybe it's patience for him at this point.
I think that makes sense. I mean, it's patience, and also, with those two high picks, hopefully making the right ones, right? Because that would, but even without those, even assuming that those guys are both like zeros for year one for somehow, which is unlikely, but like I feel like his team's good enough to be in contention. Right?
They can compete. Yeah, they can compete.
Especially if if Andrews gets cut or traded or something, and likely he's like the clear guy in Baltimore at tight end. I think that gives them a really higher end tight end to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, Ferguson, I think same thing goes for them in Dallas. I think, one thing that Schottenheimer has proven in the past as a coordinator is that he does get to tight end the ball quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's do one more. Let's talk Robby.
Robby's in a weird space here.
Yeah.
So Robby's got no firsts. It's got quarterbacks that I think is a good room with upside. I'm not out on Lawrence. In fact, I'd be looking to buy on him if I needed a quarterback. I feel like he's sort of been. I think he's an okay player. He's better than his stats have shown. Maybe sort of like totally different tier, but like kind of like a Mahomes. Like I don't think his numbers are representative of how good he actually is. Like I don't think he's bad. And Young is like, yeah, he's got potential. Like I don't
glimpse. We saw a glimpse for Bryce.
Yeah, he's a startable. He's he's startable, and you can hope for a good game there, especially if he's running a little bit near the red zone. Getting a couple of rushing touchdowns, which he's capable of. He's a fast little dude, but okay. So Robbie's got a very good tight end, Trey McBride. He's got a lot of questions at receiver, running back, and not too many answers for them. He's sixth in salary cap space, so he's probably not going to be able to add like one of the top guys necessarily.
Is the cap space considering the expired contracts?
No, nothing. No, the expired
it doesn't, right? So like it's a zero, right? It's a zero because
the expired contracts don't factor in at all for it, and the holdouts don't either. So no, I know Robbie's going to pay Trey McBride, but I'm not assuming that into his cap right away. So you can kind of deduct $16 from his salary cap. So really, as $354 minus 16 or whatever. But no, the expired contracts, he's not gonna keep anyone. Like he's not gonna franchise tag Chuba Hubbard.
No.
50. So those guys are. I don't think anyone's gonna franchise tag anyone. But so those guys are gone. Like is his team where they stand? It feels like a middle team. Like he's not gonna lose all his games. But I also struggle to see him making the playoffs without doing anything else.
He doesn't have any like big weak scores, right? Like whether it's quarterback, running back, or wide receiver, he doesn't have anybody that really could put up 30 points in a week. Maybe old Kamara, depending on what else he has left in the tank. But even the quarterbacks, right? Like I still think Herbert's. I think that if they put him, so there's two things about Herbert. I think one is clearly they need a running game. I love Lad McConkey. I think he's a good player, but I also think that clearly they can't like funnel the offense through him. He's not an over the top kind of threat. So he's pretty much underneath and he's crossing routes and stuff like that. And he's great. But I also think that kind of limits Herbert's upside. So they definitely need a wide receiver to stretch the field, but I also think the running game's important. I'm still a little concerned about their offensive coordinator. I just don't know if they can have like an exciting offense with the style, but I'm still in on Herbert, and I agree with you on Trevor Lawrence. But the rest of his lineup doesn't really have like a weak winner.
Yeah, I agree. Who knows with Kamara? Like, you can't rule that out, but it's also hard to count on at this point. And like receiver wise, like, let's assume they're not going to get Ted McMillan. Kind of becomes tricky in terms of who's that guy that would give you that oomph. Like the guy I saw mocked recently in the first round to him, actually, was Matthew Golden, who I like as a player. I think he's good, but he's also kind of one of those guys. Like he's not a guy who's going to put up like 30 fantasy points either, right? He's more of like he's not as quick and sudden. He's more of like a dependable guy who's going to catch everything and sort of he kind of reminds me in a way of what's his name, Garrett Wilson, but like Garrett Wilson light. Like he's not like extremely fast, but he's got ball skills and he gets open. So yeah, I think he's a good player, but also I don't think that having him and Ladd together that even puts Herbert. I don't think that makes them a easy receiving game or receiving room there. So maybe T. Higgins. That could be a good compliment to McConkey.
That'd be an amazing compliment. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not getting my hopes up on the Chargers. What do you do with Robby's team?
I don't like the age on his team. I think I try to sell for whatever I can get. Yeah, I mean, looking at this team in the middle, he doesn't have great draft cap, or he doesn't have great capital. So like even to get into the league guys, if you wanted to trade for them, right, you'd have to trade his 26 first, maybe for whoever, like a Saquon Barkley or whoever, somebody who's got warts, whether it's because they're on a 1-year contract or they're old, but he'd have to hope for that and hope that that's enough to put him over the top, which is kind of hard to see. And if he doesn't win this year, now you got Najee Harris another year older, Kamara another year older, DK Metcalf another year older. So it's like I start to worry at that point. And maybe I'd already be worried about like Kamara and Najee Harris. So I don't know. Like I'd rather be a year early in terms of trying to bail.
Yeah, exiting
a year late. I mean, the problem is, he's not going to get a first for Kamara. He's not going to get a first for Najee Harris. I mean, maybe if Metcalf gets off to a good start or something, maybe he could get a late first or Metcalf. But what's his contract at? I think he can be extended.
Metcalf?
Yeah, he can be extended. So
yeah, because I think he was a holdout.
Yeah, he was a holdout. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, not a great
middling team, right?
Yeah, where you don't want to be. Maybe like Romo Dunze's got some juice. People like him. Maybe I'd be willing to move him for future draft capital, rather than hold that bet, because I think I like him. I wouldn't be actively shopping for him. Like I'm not that sold on his talent. Like I think he is good. I'd be happy to hold him. But for the right price, I'd also be willing to sell.
Yeah. Yeah, this is tough for me.
Would you move the quarterbacks?
One of them. I would move one of them. I would
probably be Herbert, because I don't. Again, I think Lawrence is. You compare their values.
Yeah. Because I think you could try to say, you know what, I'm gonna. And what would be a price for Herbert? Two firsts.
This seems reasonable. Yeah, I think maybe it's low. Right now, Herbert's ranked as QB7, just behind Mahomes, and ahead of Drake May and CJ Stroud. So he's a good bit higher ranked right now than Kyler Murray. We're talking to first for Kyler. So maybe you try to find a Matt who's trying to solidify the QB position, and I don't know, is that an Eric? Would Eric be willing to trade for Herbert like that?
Who did you say for solidify the QB position?
Meaning, like,
did you say Matt? I thought you said Matt. Who did you say?
Yeah, I'm saying Robby would have to find his Matt the way.
I see.
Somebody who's really looking to fill a quarterback hole and is willing to pay like full freight for it, right?
Who would that be? Eric, yeah.
I mean, Eric? I don't know if he would do it, but that makes sense.
But if he would do Kyler, I mean, I would rather have Herbert than Kyler. So I guess for a similar kind of, if you're thinking about Eric and saying what are his options to use as capital to kind of try to bolster his QB room, then yeah, there's probably should be a buyer.
If Eric was giving up his 226 firsts, I agree. I'd want to try to get Kyler or try to get a Herbert for that first, and then move back to Kyler if I had to. I mean, what about Rich? I don't know. Would it even make sense to do like a Purdy for Herbert or Herbert for Purdy in the first or something?
Maybe. I mean, given the salary and the contract status, maybe.
What about Mick? It was Mick's pick.
Mick's got Stroud and Baker, but he only has Baker for one more year.
And he doesn't have a ton of future capital either.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a swirl a little bit, I think, around. Scott's got Mahomes, Robby has Herbert and Lawrence, and then Dave has Kyler. I think those are all teams that should consider
trading their quarterback,
trading a quarterback for as part of like a rebuild. And we didn't get the Scott. We won't get the Scott today, but I think Robby will still have two decent quarterbacks. I don't think he should take a pick and a quarterback getting back because he already has two. And I'd be fine with for the status of his team. I think it's fine rolling with Trevor Lawrence and Bryce Young because I wouldn't say he's like a player away from being in the elite tier. I think he needs a couple players. So I think he starts with shifting one of the quarterbacks, getting some extra picks, and just liquidating that and then seeing what he can liquidate. I think Robby's in a rebuild. Like I think most of his team kind of is.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. He's got players that are win now, which is like the tough spot because you need to move those players for something. I mean I don't know. Like tearing down from Lawrence is hard because right now Lawrence is ranked QB 18, so there's not a lot of room to go down. So I mean, otherwise, if there was more interesting players that were not old, like I'll read off a couple of players that rank below him, like Goff, Dak Prescott, Tua, Richardson, and then you get Darnold, like Justin Fields, Geno Smith. Either I wouldn't want to move into guys like that, like Geno Smith, Fields, no thank you.
Yeah.
Or like I feel like Emil, I don't think you would see Lawrence as an upgrade. I don't think you'd see Lawrence as much of an upgrade over Dak, but maybe. And same thing with Tua. Like I don't know. I wouldn't probably like it from Robby's end. I'm not sure. Like that again. I think the value's too close for like. And you'll probably ask for something on top of Tua for Lawrence or some shit, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like that. It wouldn't work out that way. Like if there was room to go down from Lawrence and also add like a first or something, I'd say trade Herbert and Lawrence away, get 2 lower end quarterbacks back, and picks, and you have a lower end quarterback room, Bryce Young and 2 worst guys. That's not, it could work out with a rotation of the right people, but I don't know who those people are.
Yeah.
The names don't work out.
No, and he has his 26 first too. So that's where, like, again, I think he's positioned to trim a little bit. Yeah, and try to kind of, and again, it's more of the middle. And this is like, there's like 2 teams or 3 teams that are like Eric last year, where Eric was a little bit more heavier towards like 2 like elite players, but then the rest of his team was kind of middling, and he didn't have the draft capital. It's just another couple teams this year where it's the same thing. It's like, yeah, you can probably be like somewhat competitive, but you're clustered with 4 other teams that are in a tier away from 3 other teams.
Yeah.
Right. And those 3 teams that are kind of at the top. So you're better off, if you're kind of stuck there, you're better off trying to put yourself in the bottom position, and like kind of like you did. That's why I like the way you did it. You did a complete teardown. Your team wasn't even that bad. It was just, you kind of knew it was maybe a 1 more year at most, but you started to tear down, and now you're interesting, which is why we'll save you for next time. But that's why I think Robby should probably follow a similar. I see your teams as being similar. It's just yours was a little bit better even.
So the problem with people following, I think it worked out the way I wanted to. I wanted to avoid risk, and I don't know. In hindsight, if I kept everything together, it's hard to say, because like if I kept Saquon, I wouldn't have been able to get CMC. So it's not like I could have had Saquon and CMC. So it's hard to like go back and think, well, could have, if I decided to go in on it again, would I have had a good team or not? So it's hard to do because there's too many moving pieces. That said, like, I wanted to get ahead of it, and it just happened that, like, from Saquon's perspective at least, like, he was healthy all year. He was amazing. That worked out. Other side of it, like CMC is what I was worried about happening for like Saquon. That only had 1 more year. What if he gets hurt, and then I get nothing for it, right? So it's kind of, that's what I wanted to avoid. And the tricky thing about doing that is you have to be active and willing to move players and not always feel like you're getting great value. Like, I thought I got pretty good value for people. It's not that I wasn't getting offers. Like, I think it all worked out fine, but I was willing to, like, I wanted to make that move. So I wasn't trying to like squeeze every little bit out of it, right? So it's just like, okay, I feel like I could get a little bit more, but like this deal is here, so I'm just going to take this deal.
Yeah.
Which, it's not easy to do. Dealing with people is annoying in this league sometimes, because everyone can attest. Not naming any names, but because it goes around everywhere. Everyone can be annoying. Just looking at who might make sense, like.
You're talking about for like a Herbert?
I'm thinking a package deal. Herbert and like DK Metcalf. Are there teams that need a quarterback and a receiver or something, to make it more enticing? Thinking Mick, but like, I think that would improve his team, having Marvin Harrison, Worthy, Flowers, and DK. I think that he's an upgrade over Josh Downs and the rest of the bums he's got. And I think, I even on a 1-year clip, Mayfield's productive sometimes, but I also be kind of scared having a good team and going into the year with just him as my quarterback 2 and nothing else there. I'd rather he's like the quarterback 3, and if he's having a great year, great, I'll start him. But so that's the other thing. It's like, I think Robby, if he's gonna go tear down, which I agree, I think he should. He also needs to start it early. Like, I don't think he's in a position that like Rich is in a good position because he can kind of wait and see how things shake out. Like Robby, I don't know, maybe he could wait through part of training camp or something, because the hope is like maybe somebody's quarterback is hurt. Maybe maybe Jared Goff tears his ACL, and now he's got a good team but no quarterback, so maybe he's more desperate to make a move or something, and then you get like a good price for a Trevor Lawrence or something. I don't know. But yeah, I agree. I think he needs to make some moves. I think playing this out with this team is not going to get him the championship, and it's going to leave him in a worse spot come next year.
I agree. Do me a favor, Mark. Can you mark the teams that we've done? Color code the tabs.
Yeah, I'll color code the tabs. No problem.
Because I want to see. Then I think it's a good ending point, because I kind of want to use Robby's, like, this conversation with Robby to transition to a couple of the other teams, because just as like a little preview, Emil and Ian don't have a lot of trade capital. Neither does Mark. And so and then Vlad has 2 elite QBs. So you're kind of getting into this very narrowed market for Robby, where there's not many kind of trade partners to work. Yeah. And so I think that's a good thing for us to kind of transition to, because even like we talked about Eric, but I think it's funny. I think Eric's kind of like could be one of like the lone buyers for a Herbert or a Kyler. There's a couple other that would probably want them, but when we look at their teams, I'm not sure they have the right mix.
Yeah.
In order to do it.
So we got 4, right? We got Dave, Eric, Rich, and Robby, right? Did I skip someone?
Dave, Eric, Rich, and Robby. Yeah, I think that's good. We touched upon like Mick a little bit.
Yeah, and Scott. We'll go back to them. Yeah.
Well, we'll go back to them. So yeah, those 4. I think that's good.
All right.
Okay.
I don't know. The color code is not working here. Maybe I have to close it and open it back up. But
we'll remember, I think.
Yeah, I wrote it down. Just stop keeping it on the post-it. But all right.
Okay.
Well, was it good?
Couple weeks. Maybe we'll do another one in a couple weeks.
Well, let me know. Even if it's a weeknight or something that works for you, maybe we squeeze it in. But
okay. And if we keep it to an hour, I think we're actually it's reasonable for us to do it. But
same for that. Same for 4 more teams, another hour.
And then the next 4 for another hour. That's good. Cool. Okay. All right. I'll text you.
Enjoy. Have fun with your friends.
All right. We'll do. Talk to you later.
All right. Good night.